Good afternoon, everybody. May I request everyone to please take their seats? We'll begin shortly. May I also request everybody to please keep their phones on silent mode, please. Thank you. A very good afternoon to one and all. I'm Advocate Apurva Mehta, and I extend a very warm welcome to the Symposium on India's role in oil spill recovery and salvage operations. This event is organized by the Samudra Manthan Foundation in collaboration with the Director General of Shipping, with Bhandarkar Publications as the knowledge partner. We are gathered here together at the together leaders, experts, policymakers, and innovators from across India and the global maritime community. We would also like to take a moment to extend our heartfelt gratitude to all our sponsors and partners associations whose unwavering support has made it possible for the Samudra Manthan Foundation to organize this symposium. Their continued encouragement and collaboration have been instrumental in strengthening the mission of the Samudra Manthan Foundation and in advancing India's vision of maritime excellence and sustainability. The theme, establishing India as a leader in oil spill recovery and salvage operation, reflects our nation's growing vision to strengthen maritime resilience, environmental responsibility, and global cooperation. May we now begin with lighting of the lamp, and may I call upon Captain DIG Vibhuti Ranjan, the guest of honor, uh, Captain Shri Rajiv Jalota, IAS, Captain Abdul Karam Azad, uh, Captain L.K. Panda, Captain Ashok Mahapatra, Captain Vivek Bhandarkar, and Captain Kedar Chaudhary for lighting of the lamp.
सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा गणपति नमो नमः सिद्धिविनायक नमो नमः.
Thank you, everyone. May this light guide our discussions towards knowledge, cooperation, and maritime excellence. Now that we have commenced the program, may I welcome the Director of Samudra Manthan Foundation, Captain Vivek Bhandarkar, for his welcome address.
Good afternoon, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. A very good afternoon and a very warm welcome to the Symposium of India's role in oil spill recovery and salvage operations. This event is organized by Samudra Manthan Foundation in collaboration with Director General of Shipping with Bhandarkar Publication as a knowledge partner. We are gathered here at the prestigious Geo World Convention Center, Mumbai, for this landmark two-day dialogue bringing together leaders, experts, policymakers, and innovators from across India and the global maritime community. We would also like to take a moment to extend our heartfelt gratitude to all our sponsors and partners associations whose unwavering support has made it possible for Samudra Manthan Foundation to organize this symposium. Their continued encouragement and collaboration has been instrumental in strengthening the mission of the Samudra Manthan Foundation and in advancing India's vision of maritime excellence and sustainability. The theme establishing India as a leader in oil spill recovery and salvage operations reflects our nation's growing vision to strengthen maritime resilience, environment responsibility, and global cooperation. To this, I would like to add that we should also be discussing not just about oil pollution, but pollution in general, because that is
That is
also a
also a
major
major
thing we
thing
need
we
to
need to
tackle,
tackle,
and
and
we should
we
draw
should draw
attention
attention to
to
all the
operators
operators
on the
on the
coast
coast to try and resolve this
problem of
problem of pollution.
So
So let's
look
look
forward
forward
to an
to an
exciting
exciting
event.
event.
I
I hand over to
Apurva
Apurva
again.
again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Now that we have a positive note to begin our event, before starting, may I request Captain Vivek Bhandarkar to please remain on stage for felicitation. May I first call upon our Chief Guest, Mr. Rajiv Jalota, IAS, for a small token of appreciation. May I also call upon DIG Vibhuti Ranjan on stage for felicitation. Now I request Captain Abul Kalam Azad to please grace the occasion for felicitation. Before we begin, it would be amiss to mention the organizing committee and the efforts put up by them for presenting this event today. The organizing committee is formed by Captain Vivek Bhandarkar, who is the director of Samudra Manthan Foundation, Captain Kedar Chaudhary, Master Mariner, Salvage and Oil Spill Response Specialist, Captain Anish Joseph, who is the Nautical Surveyor Deputy DG, Captain Harinder, who is the Nautical Surveyor and Deputy DG, Advocate Pankaj Kapoor, Managing Partner Quadrant Legal, Captain Neil Rodrigues, Group Director TMC, Captain Vivek Bide, who is a Maritime Professional, Ms. Kajal Festin Purohit, Marine Masters, Advocate Apurva Mehta, that is me, partner in legal, Mr. Nishant Chaudhary, Country Manager Resort Marine, Mr. Mohit Kapoor, Founder and Director at Innovative Concepts, Captain L.K. Panda, former NA DG Shipping, Captain Ashok Mahapatra, former Director IMO, and Captain Shashi Kumar, CEO CMI. Thank you everybody for your support. I would now like to introduce our chief guest, Sri Rajiv Jalota, who is a former IAS retired. He is the former chairman of the Mumbai Port Authority and a highly regarded industry mentor. During his tenure at the Mumbai Port, he drove significant improvements in ship turnaround time, berth productivity and cargo handling. He played a pivotal role in establishing the Centre of Excellence for ESG and Circular Economy, aligning Indian port operations with global environmental standards.
Sri Jalota also led landmark development projects, including the proposed marina in the Arabian Sea, and guided Mumbai Port through its historic 150th anniversary celebrations. A former chairman of the Indian Ports Association and seasoned administrator with deep insights across port governance, logistics, state trade systems and public policy, Sri Jalota's leadership continues to shape India's maritime transformation. His presence as chief guest adds immense depth and value to our symposium. May I now request Mr. Jalota to please come on stage for his address.
Thanks Apurva. It is with immense pride that I am here before you as Chief Guest courtesy Vivek Bhandarkar ji, who was insistent that I was very bad viral, but still it was good because of the event. I think the fever went away and I am standing before you. I extend my appreciation to Samudran Foundation, the Director General of Shipping, Government of India, and Bhandarkar Publications, along with all supporting partners for bringing together such a relevant and timely initiative. As someone who has spent last few years working across the maritime ecosystem and who has seen the challenges at sea up close, today's theme deeply resonates with me. And in fact, the first day I joined Mumbai port, I think I took over charge at 4 p.m. and at 4:10 I get a call that there is a fire at Jawhardeep terminal at one of the oil tanks. So that was my first skirmish with that. I was not very clear on these oil tanks and other issues. These are very new to me at that point of time. So it was very up close. So our oceans are not merely water bodies. They are the arteries of global trade and custodians of ecological balance. Yet they remain extremely vulnerable. We have addressed maritime security and often spoken of threats arising from piracy, illegal fishing and trafficking. But today, we stand before another equally urgent domain, that of oil spills and salvage operations. Events that test our preparedness, our coordination and our environmental responsibility. And in fact, it is an area that needs more and more strengthening. India's coastline, which is really a very large coastline, it places us at the crossroads of dense shipping routes, and with this advantage comes responsibility. Oil spills, whether from tanker accidents, operational discharges or unforeseen maritime incidents, pose dangers that go far beyond commercial loss. They threaten maritime biodiversity, coastal livelihoods, port operations and regional stability. And now you can see that how a single incident can have repercussions in the serious commercial domain of shipping. What we saw recently happened across the coast of Kerala. Maritime preparedness therefore is not optional, it is essential and it is non-negotiable. We must remember that oil spill response is an environmental obligation. It is also an economic imperative. Ports cannot function, economies cannot move, and coastal communities cannot thrive if our waters remain vulnerable. During my tenure as chairman of Mumbai Port Authority and earlier a small stint as DG Shipping, I gained first-hand understanding of how complex these situations can be. How every minute counts, how coordination defines outcomes, and how the absence of a unified framework can magnify the damage. This symposium aims to address precisely this. Over the next 2 days, I encourage all participants from the Indian Navy, Coast Guard, maritime police units, port authorities, salvors, classification societies, ship operators and academic institutions to engage in open dialogue, transparent discussion and honest sharing of experiences. These conversations will help us move towards a future where India is not merely reactive but proactively positioned as a regional hub for response and salvage readiness. we must also collectively focus on responsible resource management. As I have always maintained, some countries look at oceans as a limitless resource. We know better. Our approach must prioritize sustainability, ESG principles, and cooperation because maritime challenges is not specific boundaries. Over the years, I have come to believe that the true test of maritime governance lies not only in managing our cultural challenges, but in anticipating the ones we have not encountered. The maritime domain is evolving faster than ever. Ships are becoming larger, cargo more diverse, trade routes more complex, and environmental expectations more stringent. In such a landscape, India must move beyond fundamental improvements and embrace future-ready predictive frameworks. Whether it is through advanced skill systems, interoperable command structures, or stronger public-private partnerships, our preparedness must be shaped by our foresight, not by circumstance. I am confident India has both intellectual depth and institutional strength to lead this transformation. Let this symposium serve as a platform to build integrated strategies, promote joint operations, and identify methodologies that help us perceive incidents with greater speed and precision. With the presence of global organizations, technical experts, and the vast experience gathered here, this forum is uniquely placed to enable best practice sharing. I am confident that discussion here will strengthen India's capabilities, contribute to policy improvements, and help create a safer, cleaner, and more resilient maritime future. I look forward to exchanges, insights, and the collective wisdom that emerge from this gathering. Thank you, and I wish this symposium a great success.
Thank you very much, sir. Now we want to introduce the guest on the way. DIG Dungeon. He is head of distinguished officers and appointments, including the Command of State Andhra Pradesh as Command 6th Command. He is also the staff principal director of Plan and Budget and Operations, Coastal Security and International Cooperation. He was also the director, the joint director of Search and Rescue, Anti-Piracy and International Cooperation. He is also represented on country and Indian Coast Guard International Platform of Regional Cooperation Agreement on combat piracy and armed robbery in Asia, to which India is engaged as the manager of research at the Information Sharing Center of Africa in Singapore from May 2007 to June 2009. He also had various appointments and various positions, which is given him a vast experience in operation, life saving, administration, training, planning, execution of multilateral exercises, events, capacity building initiatives, and international cooperation, including crisis management and long-term planning government services. He is also awarded the Touch Medal on 15th of 2025. May I request the DIG to please come on stage to address this again.
Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, I would like to thank the Symposium Foundation for inviting me to be present here. And it's a sheer that I have here. In fact, yesterday afternoon, we started to so I'm happy to be here. The second part is the topic of this symposium. You know, it's really very heartening for me, someone who is his wife, spent his first 20 years on the land and the last 30 years at sea. So seeing the world both sides, from the continental world and the ocean world. And when you see it from the ocean world, and when you come back and land, then you realize how much more has to be done, especially with respect to the topic which is just selected at Symposium. Probably I split this topic into two parts separated by and if you look at the first part, probably all of us sitting here in this room will agree with me that yes, we have done something. As all the stakeholders are here present in front, they will all agree that we have done something and we are moving towards achieving the role of having maximum things in our inventory for a major response. In the past, small scale, and we have succeeded also in preserving our marine environment. If we go back to the human evolution, we have seen that the whole ecosystem on the continental world actually started from the oceanic world. And it is our responsibility to see that we preserve the oceanic world based on which the complete weather ecosystem of the continental world actually progresses, and that is why we survive every day. But when you come to the second part, then I realized that yes, lot has to be done. I'll tell you about 20 years back, I was posted in Porbandar. It was the starting of monsoon period. My house was very close to the seashore, being in Porbandar. Evening was dark, we went to sleep peacefully. But when next day morning, when we woke up and went outside in the balcony, I saw a huge ship, MV Katrina, just grounded on the eastward side of Porbandar lighthouse. Huge vessel. Suddenly it came and just grounded there. The first reaction was, how had it come? What happened to it? Before we could reach that, there was input from the local administration that there is a oil spill there. So we could gather our team, went there, okay, plugged the hole because it was almost come on the ground, recovered whatever oil with our system which is in place. Then came the second part. What will happen to the vessel which is grounded there? There is no takers. You have to open all the rule books, get the local administration on board, somehow convince the local district collector that this is your responsibility now as per the rule book. But the local collector again, the district administration is looking towards me, towards us. You tell me, how will I remove that ship? Such a huge ship, MV Katrina, how I am going to remove it? So that is where I think we will have to move forward and see how we do the salvage activity. Yes, we could mobilize Smith from Singapore. They came here and they actually did the salvage job. And since then, what I see is we are relying on salvage companies which are overseas, and some of them do have some local partners here, and they are able to execute those salvage activities with assistance of Coast Guard, local administration, DG Shipping and other stakeholders. But yes, this is definitely a niche area in which we need to work. We need to work a lot. We have to work with respect from the topmost level so that there are rules, legislations in place which support such type of activity. Because you have to have a downstream revenue generation for anyone to come forward and put in money and resources to have a facility like this. So there are a lot of templates available, whether we look towards Singapore or any other country, even Sri Lanka, we look towards them, we see there are some templates available which can be implemented and applied. Probably, I think in next 2 days or so during our discussions, we'll come out with something which can show us a way forward. With Sir being here, probably it will be the best course of action which can be projected and implementable in future. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, sir, for the invaluable practical experience that you've shared with us. I now have the privilege of introducing you to Captain Abul Kalam Azad. He's the nautical advisor to the Government of India. He's worked as a captain in SCI on various ships, including oil tankers and bulk carriers. Thereafter, he joined the Indian Maritime Administration in 2008 as the nautical surveyor cum deputy director general of shipping. He served in the DJ shipping for 7 years and later on with the Mercantile Marine Department, Chennai and Kochi for a period of 7 years as the deputy nautical advisor. He's done his Masters of Science in Maritime Affairs from the prestigious World Maritime University in Sweden. May I now request Captain Abdul Kalam Azab to come up on stage for the keynote address.
Good afternoon to all. Respected Chief Guest, Sri Rajiv Prasad, AS, former Chairman, DPA and former DG Shipping, Organizing Committee Chairman for this Symposium, Captain Vivek Bhandarkar sir, my senior and mentors, Captain L.K. Panda sir, former Nautical Advisor, and Captain Mahapatra sir, former Director, International Maritime Organization, DAG Dubiti Ranjan, DAG Bhanagupta ji, and my colleagues and veterans from the field of salvage, I think Captain Sahai and Captain Imam, Captain Manoj, so many familiar faces. Captain Harinder is also there, the man who is actually driving this India's uh, salvage and emergency response ecosystem is here. The very familiar faces. So I must congratulate and thank the Samudra Manthan Foundation for organizing this event and bring all the stakeholders, insurer, legal professional, shipping companies, and the salvage agency, Coast Guard administration together. The 4th March 2025, the DG Shipping has organized a salvage and emergency response conference this year in IRS, where many of these team members have participated. It was organized, we must sensitize the industry. With that intention, we organized. That time we never thought how this year 2025 will roll out. And after the conference, we said we must have a zero incidents, zero spill, because there were some incidents in the previous year. The major incident of Maersk Frankfurt fire incident happened. So during that conference, we decided, yes, let's have a mechanism so that we must avoid any incidents and spills. But within 2 months, in the month of May, I think 25th May, we had a major incident of sinking of MSC Elsa 3. Then subsequent 10 days, we have a major fire incident of Vanhay 503. Then next week, there is another fire incident of container ship Inter-Asia Tenacity. In the month of June, the fourth incident happened, Vanhay 613, all related to container ships. So, why I am saying, our goal of the administration is to have a zero fatalities and zero spill. That's our goal. But will we be able to achieve? And we move toward the direction, but incidents happen. We must have an effective response mechanism. So the need for an effective response mechanism cannot be underestimated. So that is how this conference adds value to the stakeholders. Also, I must tell that New Mangalore Port has organized, just before the monsoon, they organized a conference that we should not have any incident. Luckily, New Mangalore has escaped this time. The entire event happened south of New Mangalore. Myself and Captain Panda sir participated and sensitized the stakeholders, be prepared. The New Mangalore and north of New Mangalore was safer during this monsoon. Everything up to Kasaragod, we had all the incidents, Kasaragod and below. So we are telling all the port authorities, all the coastal states, you please have some kind of workshop, seminar, sensitize the stakeholders. Don't get panic in case of emergencies. There is a negative media publicity in any incidents. So that is how this conference is very important. But only thing, what I am saying, the conference speakers are all same, and the audience are also more or less same. So we have to reach out to the different audiences. So that in that perspective, I think our first step is we are going to organize similar conferences in all the coastal states. That has already been decided by the DG Shipping. The first conference I think we are planning in Andhra Pradesh. Then it will be in Gujarat. So we will be covering all the coastal states during the next year. I think Captain Harinder and the team is working on this conference. Because it can happen, incident can happen at any place. And also I would like to mention that I think our DG sir was supposed to come. Captain Bhandarkar must be knowing because of his travel to IMO. So he couldn't participate. So that's how I had to come here. I am happy to participate in this conference. There are a lot of bright minds are here who will discuss the various aspects of emergency preparedness, oil pollution response, salvage, firefighting. So they can come out with some solutions and they can suggest what can be done to promote salvage and emergency response mechanisms in India, and that will be definitely be given due importance and consideration by the DG Shipping. Since I am representing DG Shipping, I must tell you what DG Shipping is doing. Everybody would like to ask what the government is doing. So in this, so I must say we are moving with the mindset that our emergency response should have a 360-degree approach. The first is the legislation. We did not have a very effective legislation on marine incident emergency response. I am happy to tell all the participants here there is a separate chapter has been added in the Emergency Shipping Act 2025 only for marine incidents and emergency response. There was no such regulation was there earlier. So you can see that how the government views it, how government gives importance to this emergency response. There is a chapter has been included. There are specific regulations which says the central government shall formulate plans and procedures for incidents and emergency response. There is a mandate. I think Captain Harinder and our team has prepared the plan. The first draft has already been sent to all the stakeholders, coastal states, Navy, Coast Guard for the inputs. I think by maybe another 2-3 months we will finalize the plan. It gives the A to Z of how to report an incident, how to categorize, how to assess the severity of the incident, consequences, risk assessment, how to mobilize, everything we have covered. We try to cover, but we value inputs from all the stakeholders. I think we will also, so far it is not published in DG Shipping website as a public document. It has been sent to all the stakeholders as a first draft. Maybe once we receive the stakeholder recommend, maybe the next draft we will upload for a public, so that all the experts also can first we must have an interagency like agreement on who should do what. So that once we finalize, then I think we will put up in website for stakeholder recommend where you can add value based on your experience and how other countries have performed. So that is the first aspect to the legislative parts, and then you have a plans and procedures, and then that section also provides mandate for a government to designate a nodal authority for various emergencies. Government can designate one or more nodal authority. Often it comes that who is supposed to do what, like this is the confusion, or like in the government departments, so I am supposed to do, why are you doing, or maybe if I am not supposed to do. So that is the reason central government will notify an authority there is already a broad agreement that any emergency related to the natural calamities, cyclones, tsunamis, weather related incident, the Coast Guard will be the nodal authority. It has already been decided. In fact, it was mentioned in the act itself, but then they said don't mention the name, we will issue a separate notification. And all other incidents, it will be based on the location of the incident. If the incident happens within the port authority will be the primary nodal authority. And beyond the port limit, again oil pollution incident, we all know that Coast Guard has been doing as per the NAS DCP, that again that responsibility will be retained as it is. And DG shipping again will be just coordinating, because DG shipping doesn't have any field resources on hand, but it will be doing all coordination work, proactive efforts to have a communication to bring the owners and everybody on a same page, insurer, salver. So that kind of work DG shipping was always doing, it will continue to do. So this nodal authority will be appointed. Rules are being framed now, which is already first draft is in DG shipping website. If somebody wants to see it, they can have a look at DG shipping website, marine incident emergency response rules. That is, means what are the duties and responsibilities of the nodal authorities. So it has already been prescribed. So this is with respect to emergency response. Now regarding salvage, major changes in the legislation is that we must encourage establishment of salvage hubs in India. So that was always lacking. In any incident, it took at least 3-4 days, 5 days to mobilize the first responder. So that government has thought of it. I think thanks to all my seniors, this issue was always stressed upon. It has already come in legislation. So for that, what we need to do? How do we promote the salvage hub? So first, we need to encourage the agencies to come and set up the facilities in India. They must manpower, equipment, and the systems. Second, we must make them viable. Their operation should be viable. For that, we must mandate any ships visiting Indian ports to have a formal agreement with the salvage companies. So this is the idea of the government. And we have already published a draft port entry rules in the website, where we have clearly mentioned any vessel entering Indian waters. Indian waters means including EEZ, because our most of the problems happen because of the passing vessel, not because of the ships which are calling Indian ports. But how do we enforce that? That questions I think seniors will always, that we will come up with some kind of tools. How do we enforce such mechanism? So any vessel passing through Indian water must have a mandatory tie-up with the salvage agency. So we are dividing into 4 aspects. One is oil spill response. We have dedicated oil spill response organizations which are already approved by the Coast Guard, so they must have a tie-up. And under the salvage, we have 3 aspects: emergency towing, marine firefighting, and salvage and wreck removal. So this is a 4 different aspects. Basically, we are mandating that any vessel coming to Indian water must have a tie-up. Already draft rules are in the website, so you all can see it. And another point I want to tell about the criteria for empanelment of salvers. That is, again, we have published a draft notice in the DG shipping website. Lot of comments we have received, and we will accept all the comments given by the stakeholders. It is finally we want to make it operational, workable, and feasible model. We don't want to make something which is not practical, to enforce. So if anybody has not given comments so far, they are welcome to give comments during this workshop. I request Bhandarkar sir to compile and give it to us. This is only some 10-15 criteria we have given. If the leading companies want some changes, so we are ready to do it. So I think Harinder is here, so we will make changes, and that will be brought in the rule also. It will not be not only a mere MS notice, it will be a rule. And another important thing in legislation, if any disputes with respect to the salvage contract and services provided, the DG shipping can adjudicate. This powers also, because if you go to the court, it will prolong for years. So that powers also have been introduced in the Merchant Shipping Act now. So the legislative side, enough has been done. Now we have liberty to add some more value addition in the rules, not contravening the basic provisions in the Act. That time is open till I think maybe 16th of December. Because dates are fixed. We have to freeze the rule by 17th January. So anybody wants to give a suggestion, they can give a suggestion. It will be incorporated. So we have no fixed, nothing is fixed in our mind, nor we are experts. I think experts are sitting here, so they can suggest the models which are being followed in other countries, and government is open to listen to your suggestion, and we will adopt it. So this legislative part is done, and how do we promote the setup? So as soon as the notice is finalized, we will invite applications from the interested parties to. So we said within 6 months, they must have at least one on East Coast, one on West Coast unit, and within 2 years, at least 4 locations. This is what we have said. Some of them said it is difficult to establish 2 or 1. At least we start with the one center now. So we are open to any suggestion. It is based on a time frame. So we said within 12 hours, your response person must reach the spot. It's based on the time. Somebody can, even if you are in Mumbai, it takes two days to reach the oil spill equipment to Kandla by road. Maybe same country, but maybe from Singapore they can come within 4 hours. So that time duration, what we are focusing on. So that also we have released the notice in the website. Now our notice explicitly states any vessel must have a tie-up. So legislation is ready, rules are being framed, and we are inviting all the salvage companies to set up facilities in India, and we are going to mandate all vessels to have tie-up. Come what may be the objection, it will be implemented, but it should be reasonable. Cost should not be exorbitant. That I think the operators, service providers must facilitate that. And another important thing is the availability of tugs. You can have a best of the facilities, but you can't reach the, even 2 miles away from the shore, then there is no use. So we have mandated all the ports in India, sir. I think you must have seen any port, both major and non-major, handling more than 10 million tons, cargo having more than 3 or more tugs. One tug has to be designated, means one tug should be capable of going outside. So there were some apprehensions, but I think now everybody has accepted it. It's nothing. So now we have each port, there will be one tug who is ready to go out to sea. Otherwise, mostly it was though they were all sea-going tugs, they want to have some exemptions and flexibilities. They are downgraded their operational capability. We have mandated, I think with the support of the ministry has supported us, one tug must be ready to go to sea all time. In fact, that has already helped in one of the major incident recently, an auxiliary engine fire of a MSC container ship, very big container ship. The port tugs, I think Adani group is here, so they will know very well. The 2 tugs, we allowed the tugs to go out 40 miles and they towed the vessel. It was like a major incident, disaster got prevented because of that. So tugs mobilization, we have done it. From DG shipping side, you are aware we already have a 1 ETV on East Coast and 1 ETV on West Coast. That is there. Additional we have, because that is only for first response, immediate. Then we always tell the salvers, you please mobilize your own tugs immediately, which normally happens in 3-4 days time. So tugs are available. You are coming, salvage agencies are coming and setting up shop. Hopefully before next monsoon, I sincerely hope that we have all mechanisms and experts are in place. Our success of this project can be measured if there is no need for us to utilize it, then we are successful. So we have to do the drills and keep it ready. But sometimes we can't prevent. At that time, we need you need your support. At the same time, prevention also, I must say that DG shipping has taken series of initiatives to prevent the incidents. So we have published, we are the first maritime administration in the world, publish the safety videos based on the investigation done by the administration. Like normally the investigation findings are uploaded in GC's portal, we issue safety circulars, but unfortunately we found people are not reading it. Government spent money and we have made videos already. 3 videos are on our DD Shipping YouTube channel. I think Arindar will share the link subsequently. It is based on real life inquiry done incidents, and we are reaching out to all the training centers to prevent, just to to popularize these videos so that they should not encounter similar instances. So that is again a pipeline. So we are going to come out with around 30 to 40 videos. That is already government has made a contract with the vendor. And we are also recently released a request for proposal for a global maritime safety portal, where we are going to have a dashboard of incidents happening across the world, including Indian seafarer, Indian ships. It will be readily available, and to predict the risk-based, companies which are having high risk operation, to target them, train them, and to prevent incidents. So that is also parallelly happening. So I think we are trying our best, but we need your support. And we need the blessings of the seniors, those who have served several years. Now they are ready to come and provide services to India. We welcome all suggestions and your guidance. We are open-minded and we will go by whatever your suggestions. Okay, so finally we always look for your support. Lastly, I want to talk about insurance. Again, wherever IG insurance is there is no problem. Wherever non-IG insurance, we are facing issues because there is a delay in signing a contract with the Salvage. Salvage are insisting, no, I must have some kind of fixed agreement. But the non-IG insurer is not ready to sign it. And there are sanctions related issues which we are facing, that some vessels are sanctioned vessels. An emergency, no Salvage was ready to come in. So in such kind of scenario, if we have a ready-made Salvage, DG Shipping can order any specific Indian entities to provide assistance and support. So that is also being worked out, because now the sanction issue is another serious issue which we are facing. And lastly, before I conclude, I must request all of them, all the empaneled vendor and empaneled oil spill response agencies, to have that stock readily available, and whenever you are mobilizing, it should be usable. In recent incident in Fulda, chemical tanker explosion in Kandla, I think many of you may be knowing, we just told oil spill agency, you please bring the booms and all, everything. They brought a container load of equipment to the Kandla. It took 2 days time, and then finally they loaded that drum to a small tug. Later on, once they reached the site, it was found that it cannot be rolled out. If you want to roll out a boom, you must have open deck. So finally, that vendor should be, he knows that actually. Just because somebody said you bring the boom, he brought them, but he cannot deploy it. So we had to cancel. We had to tell him, no, please, you go immediately. So government will have powers to cancel a salvage contract, then they will direct somebody else to appoint. So that will happen. So the vendor must be fully ready. It should be knowledgeable. Not what is usable within the harbor cannot be used outside. So that I request all the participants to discuss in the next few days. And with these words, I must sincerely thank the Indian Coast Guard and Indian Navy for their extraordinary support during the last incident. I think big round of applause to Indian Navy. and especially Captain Sahai, who had to go by seeking helicopter, seeking helicopter to go and connect the toe, and he got his, I think, legs also a little bit injured. So when everybody was, like people were like, saying that no, Captain Sagai, nothing is happening, then he himself, I think you are also there. So you all went there, and this effort what we made was appreciated various forums, be it International Maritime Organization, and everywhere it was appreciated. The one day, almost 3 months, the team of TNT was holding the vessel in peak monsoon season and finally safely managed to take the vessel to the Jebel Ali. So, but it takes time. We realize sometimes there is a lot of apprehension among the authorities. Why so many days it's happening. But finally, we believe on experts what you are saying. At the same time, government will reserve the right to terminate and go to some other partner if somebody is ready to provide a better services. So with this, any emergency can be responded only by effective collaboration, coordination by all the parties. Nobody can provide a single agency can provide a solution. So we seek your collaboration, we seek your advice, we seek your guidance, and we are ready to work with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing all the initiatives of the administration and the latest developments in the area of oil spill response and salvage. Before we begin with the sessions in the second session now, we'll break for tea for 20 minutes. May I request everybody to please gather back at 4:20. Thank you.
Good evening once again. We'll start the second session now. Let me first start by thanking our sponsor, Polestar Maritime Limited, for the lovely tea break. Thank you, Polestar Maritime. Before we proceed, we would like to call on stage Captain Vivek Bhandari for presenting mementos to our chief guest, Mr. Rajiv Jalota.
Next one,
So may we request you to please come on
PPT,
just to start this. What happened?
Thank you, sir. May I now call on stage Captain Kedar Chaudhary to present the memento to DIG Bibhuti Ranjanji. Thank you. There are QR codes that are present outside the hall room where you can scan the QR code and you'll get details of all the speakers as well as the event. May we now begin the first panel, that is the regulatory frameworks and compliance, insights into evolving global maritime laws and how operators can align with new environmental mandates. For the moderator, we have Captain L.K. Panda, who's the former nautical advisor to the DG Shipping. And the panelists, we have Captain Harinder Singh, DIG Bhanu Gupta, and Ms. Rakhi Sadhu. May I invite all of you on stage? Ms. Rakhi Sadhu. I have the privilege of introducing all the panelists and the moderators. Captain L.K. Panda, he is retired as the nautical advisor after 25 years with the Maritime Administration. He is trained on pollution measures at several places, and he imparts training on OPRC courses to maritime industry personnel, including officers from the Indian Coast Guard, besides being involved in maritime training for seafarers. He is presently the advisor to the Gujarat Maritime Board on implementation of statutory measures. Captain Harinder Singh is a maritime professional with over 28 years of experience, out of which 23 years he spent in safe tanker operations in India's national shipping carrier, followed by 7 years as a chief manager. For last 5.5 years, he's serving in the Indian Maritime Administration as in charge of the Casualty Branch, DGCOM Center, and LRIT National Data Center. He's participated in the USGC-led inquiry into MV Dali incident. He's actively coordinated the successful operation of MSC ELSA 3, Wanhai 503, Inter-Asia Tenacity, and Falta. He holds a master's COC and is an alumnus of the WMU, completing MSc with specialization in maritime safety and environmental administration. He also holds a PG diploma in shipping management. Our last panelist is DIG Bhanu Gupta. He served for more than 22 years with the Navy. With the Coast Guard. He has he has served as the senior manager in the Information Sharing Center of the Regional Cooperation Agreement on combating piracy and armed robbery against ships in Asia. In his current appointment, he's spearheading these search and rescue missions across the entire Western region, SSR, which spans across 2.6 million square kilometers. On occasions, the office has coordinated SARS missions in the neighboring countries as well towards safety of life at sea. On such two recent missions, 21 lives of Indian mariners were saved in Pakistan. He's also served on board all classes of ICG ships and had commanding various afloat platforms, including the ICG interceptor boat C-138, C-150, fast patrol vessel ICGS Amaya, and offshore patrol vessels ICGS Vigraha. He has represented India at various international seminars, conferences, tabletop exercises, and discussions. I now hand over the mic to Captain L.K. Panda for the session.
Thank you. Good evening, honorable guests, the organizers, participants. Thank you for inviting us and making us the opening batsmen, three of us, to start the innings. What we want to structure this discussion so that we can have productive output of it is that Captain Harinder Singh and my colleague DIG Bhanugupta has thought it wise to give presentation. So therefore, I would like you to take your seat and let Captain Harinder give his first presentation, followed by DIG Bhanugupta. Then we will have a panel discussion open to your question answers. As in the good old days, we used to say, you can take our orals. Okay. As far as this subject is concerned, I need not emphasize the importance of it because my colleague, Captain Azad, has already elaborated the need for it. And if we go by our old mantra, is that what it says that Samudra Manthanasya Amrutam Parapakaram. But that Samudra, before you do the manthan, it must be clean. Otherwise, you will never get the nectar, as our good old says have spoken. And to keep the ocean clean, looking at our geographical position, we have well over 50,000 vessels passing off Dondra Head. Almost 1/3 of the energy resources pass precariously close to our coast. We have lovely ecosystem of Lakshadweep and of Andaman's Island. We are an ever hungry nation so far as energy is concerned. Probably the biggest, and so far as international contribution is concerned, probably we are the second biggest contributor to fund. And what we observe that almost every quarter, if you take the analysis, every quarter there is a pollution event happening either in Indian Ocean or in Bay of Bengal. To couple it up, oil exploration activity is increasing by the day. Misdeclaration of cargo in containers, pardon me for using this word or this term, misdeclaration by way of cargo, weight and quality is leading to several casualties on container ships. And what we see, all those container ships are almost 20-year-old plus, and they have been virtually put on high-risk profile. Are we seeing this trend increasing? Plethora of legislations have come. Yes, we have been a little dormant so far as our legislation is concerned. though we have agreed to all international legislation, whether it is of CLC, whether it is of fund, or whether it is of any Nairobi Convention, so far as wreck and salvage is concerned, we have ratified everything. But unfortunately, we have not been able to bring it to our legislation for so long. Because our old legislation, which is of British legacy, encompassed everything in the Act, the Merchant Shipping Act of 1958. And as you may know, that's an act of Parliament. All of us are aware of the good practices of the Parliament. I need not elaborate that. The effort started in 2014 to align our system, being aware of the development that is happening in the Indian Ocean, being aware of the development that is happening in Bay of Bengal, so that our legislation is aligned to the international practices. Therefore, ultimately, we get the benefit of the aims and objective of international legislations. Sadly, it's a matter of concern that we have not been able to process any claim officially from the fund or from any other. You mean to say our waters were very clean? It's a matter to be debated upon. Nevertheless, the effort that was started in 2014 for amending the Merchant Shipping Act has paid its dividend, though it took almost 10 years. But the new act has come. The new act has brought in changes which are aligned with a positive structure, so that the disputes, the claims, the procedures are in line with the international requirement. Though everything cannot be encompassed or be put in the legislation, however, every section or the chapter that is there in the new Merchant Shipping Act leaves a lot which can be expanded. I have with me Captain Harinder Singh, the Nautical Surveyor and Deputy Director General of Shipping. I think without wasting much time, I leave it to you to give us an idea of what changes have come which will facilitate or which will go towards facilitation of the processes of claims, of recovery, of making us better equipped to process the claims. Captain Harinder Singh, please.
आगे कुछ कैसे करना है? ये आ नहीं रहा वहाँ पे ना. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished dignitaries and my dear colleague. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today giving you a presentation regarding the regulatory reforms that have been initiated by the DG Shipping. And as Nautical Advisor Captain Panda sir said, we are the opening three batsmen, and I also had the privilege of Nautical Advisor speaking before me. So for the first batsman, it will be to some extent repeat telecast. So, as you all know, India's maritime safety is vital to our economic security, environmental stewardship, and global standing. So, by strengthening our oil spill preparedness, modernizing our salvage and rec management capabilities, which are also supported by our operational readiness. We are in the cusp of shaping a very resilient and future ready maritime network. So to achieve this, we have initiated various reforms, or we have taken various initiatives. And during the course of my presentation, I'll be taking you through the steps that we have initiated. So there have been certain revised provisions under the Merchant Shipping Act 2025. So in part 10 of the Merchant Shipping Act, we have introduced provisions on marine incident and emergency response in the new act, which was not there in the previous act, and incorporation of Rec Convention and Salvage Convention. This also has been incorporated in part 12 of the MS Act. And in this, the powers and duties of the central government in undertaking salvage operation also have been very clearly specified. And in case of any dispute which arises out of the salvage operation, so the powers have been given to the Directorate General of Shipping to educate on these matters. And next is retention of salvors. When we say retention of salvors, it is empanelment of salvors and then the retention of salvors. For empanelment of salvors, we have come out with certain guidelines which we have put up on our website, and there has been a stakeholder consultation. We have received few comments, and we are in the process of finalizing the empaneled salvors. And what are the rights and obligations of the salvors will also be eventually part of the same exercise. And while we come out with this provision, so there have been certain capabilities which have been envisaged from the salvors. So all those things are listed in the criteria. And when we see the difference between Merchant Shipping Act 1958 vis-a-vis Merchant Shipping Act 2025, the salient features which are there in the new act are listed on the right side. The new act empowers the central government to take necessary measures to protect its coastline, which was not specifically mentioned in the previous act. And the new act specifically talks about empanelment of salvors. And the ship owners and the salvor for any dispute resolution can approach the Director General of Shipping. And while we are doing this activity, we are also in the process of formulation of rules for part 10 and part 12. Again, that is happening through the stakeholder consultation, and all through the exercise. We have kept the salvors. We may come out with very fancy set of rules, very fancy set of provisions. Unless and until these are not practically viable or cannot be implemented on ground, they will have very little meaning. So the people who perform in these activities, the salvors, the Coast Guard, the Navy, the other agencies, from stage one, from the inception stage till the plan is conceptualized, till it is finalized, put on ground. So we are all together. Every stakeholder has equal participation in this. And we have a very unified mechanism, stakeholder consultation. All government agencies are involved in this. And we have also come out with, as Captain Azad had previously mentioned, SOP for National Maritime Emergency Response in the sphere of maritime domain. So this gap was identified after MSC and Van High 503 incident. This Van High 503 case gave us a very unique perspective. The state maritime administration do not understand the complication or the legality of the salvage claims, or you can say how the entire mechanism works. So the state authorities are always in a hurry to find a scapegoat, I would say. And they, while the operations are still on, they take the legal route, which actually hampers the entire operation. So we have come out with a detailed set of SOP. The role of each agency is clearly defined. At what stage the agency will kick in, what measures they will initiate, how is the risk to be assessed, how it is to be implemented. So it's a very detailed, it's close to 120 pages plan, and it will actually unify the response mechanism of the country. And we have also, now this is the response plan. Now the state maritime administration also lacks, the state maritime board, I would say, they also lack the complete understanding of how the claim mechanism work, how the conventions they kick in. So we are also coming out with a legal advisory for all the coastal states. So as part of this engagement, we are having a series of workshops with the coastal states. We have already done one with Andhra Pradesh Maritime Board, and next Andhra Pradesh, and next is in line is Gujarat. And over a period of next 6 months, we'll be covering the entire stretch of coastal state spectrum. And now, what are the measures that we are initiating to test or to have operational readiness? So first and foremost is standby equipment to be set up in India. We have 2 ETVs in place, one in Mumbai, one in Chennai. And every time an incident happens, we realize that the two number of ETVs, they are good but not sufficient. In both the cases, MSC Elsa and Vanai, the ETV took 3 days to reach MSC Elsa. Fortunately, she was around and she reached Vanai 503 within 6-7 hours of the incident. But that initial time gap was a challenge. And other one is oil spill equipment and firefighting system at high risk coastal zones. So for this we will be having a series of meeting with the stakeholders, including the Coast Guard. And having identified the limitation of having only 2 ETVs, we have come out with another initiative, what we call Alpha Tug deployment. And this we came out through a merchant shipping notice, which was issued 2 months back, and it mandates every port which handles more than 10 million metric ton of cargo should have at least one tug which is capable of deployment at short notice, and it should carry crew which is certified for coastal operations. And I would also like to add this, after these 2 incidents, a very high level meeting was convened by the Prime Minister's office, and we have been specifically tasked with few agendas. They have been divided into short term, medium term, and long term. Short term is 0 to 6 months. So the salvage hub comes in the medium term. So this operation, this system has to be made operational within a period of 2 years. The Alpha Tug deployment was a short term measure. It had to be implemented within 6 months. And place of refuge. Now this is a very, very critical gap we have around the Indian coastline. We do not have any place of refuge identified or earmarked, and whenever we have any problem, so no port is willing to accept. We are not even talking about willing to accept the disabled vessel. The ports are even hesitant in facilitating the movement to the vessel. We had issues. Fortunately, we have with us Captain Joshi, and thanks to him, we could achieve a very faster turnaround for Maersk Frankfurt, MSC Elsa, and Vanai 503, and that role was very, very critical. So this gap was also identified during this operation, and we are also in the, I would say, in a stage to identify the place of refuge. But again, it remains a challenge. We can only come out with rules, but during this conferences, seminars, everybody agrees, everybody gives a nod, but when the time comes for implementation, we don't see people willing to offer their premises or their place for these disabled vessels. But having said so, now this Vanai 503, eventually she went to Jebel Ali. Now Jebel Ali has more infrastructure than us, more capabilities than us, I seriously doubt, but they have the determination, they have the resolve. And Jebel Ali also sees this as a business proposition. It's a very big business proposition. So now this thought has also dawned upon the authorities. So this also fortunately will come through. Now this salver empanelment framework. Now while we empanel a salver, there'll be many people who would be willing to empanel themselves as a salver. But what is most important is the credibility and experience in performing the task, because salvage, what we read in the books and actually what happens on the ground are entirely two different things. And the kind of hardship or the kind of challenges which a salver goes through as Captain Azad had mentioned, the TNT Salvage, which was engaged in rescue of Van Hyve 503, held that ship away from the Indian coast for the entire monsoon period. The entire monsoon period. And what monsoon period can be in Arabian Sea, we all know that. We had cases of tow line parting. We had Captain Anuj Sai, who was, I don't know, where is he? Yeah, he's there. Who was lowered through the chopper. He had a dislocated shoulder. Still, he could not be brought back. So these are the circumstances under which there was no need for him to do that, but he volunteered. And since I had the privilege of that first-hand experience, we were only 45 minutes away from the grounding of that ship. The naval helicopter was launched. Captain Sahay was put on board. There were 2 Filipino salvors. And whenever any foreign national board say a MOD or a defense helicopter, the approval has to come from the ministry. So that was taken within half an hour, and the salvors were lowered. And in the process, he ended up dislocating the shoulder, but the entire Kerala coastline was saved. So that was the kind of effort which went in. We see on the paper only it's a rescue operation, but it is much beyond that. So it is very important that whom we choose as a salver, and while we choose good salvers, whether it is TNT, SMET, or Resolve, or Marine Masters, at the same time we are also looking at our homegrown capabilities, our homegrown salvers. We had, like in China, we had a similar situation 30, 40 years back. Now we have 3 big Chinese companies, Shanghai Salvage, Guangzhou Salvage. So we are looking for this kind of an infrastructure, not with the next 5, 10 years, but maybe with the next 10, 15 years. This industry has to grow, it has to mature. So what you see on the screen, the experience, qualification, financial rating, local correspondent, success rate, financial stability, how we see ourselves 10, 15 years down the line will be how much or what kind of efforts we are putting in now. The more robust or the more sincere our efforts are now, the better will be the yield after 10, 15 years when the industry matures or when we have a very robust system. Now the other initiatives which are initiated by the DG Shipping, again this is a repeat telecast, all of them have been covered by Captain Azad, but I'll repeat them nonetheless. This Indian Global Maritime Safety Portal, now this is a very unique initiative. Now this is on similar lines to what we have in the European Union, MSEP, what they call. And the idea of having this is all maritime incidents will be reported real time. It will be a dashboard, all our marine casualty investigation, all data will be available on this website. And our safety videos that we have created, we have already published 3 safety videos, and we look at publishing around 30 to 40 videos over a period of next 3 years. So all this data, all this learning management, all this initiative will be hosted in this maritime safety portal. This will be over and above GSIS, because we realize that we come out with very elaborate casualty circulars, the other MS notices, but it doesn't have that kind of reach. So now we have come out with multilingual safety videos so that the crew, the seafarers, everybody sees those videos, and these videos are totally free of cost. The last video which we have released on the social media, within 5 days it had about 14,500 views. So it is that kind of a reach that we are looking at, and we are very happy that it has been received very positively. And next is MS notice for mandatory deployment of tugs by ports. This I've already covered. And the salvage hub is it's been already covered in the previous slide. And the mandatory tie-up with salvors and oil spill response organization. So this, I believe currently OSROs are approved by the Coast Guard, but whether they actually function on ground, whether they may be having the equipment, but they are ready for deployment. This we realized in the case of Fulda, that they had the equipment, but there no intention to deploy. So those were only for optics. So these are the initiatives which have been taken by the DGS. So with this, I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you indeed for very patient listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Harinder Singh. Uh, it's good to know of the new initiatives being taken with the new Merchant Shipping Act coming in October this year. However, as per the old act and as per the old principles, we know that the Indian Coast Guard has been uh, was the nominated agency so far as pollution prevention on or around Indian coast uh, is concerned. They have done a wonderful work for the last 50 odd years, if I may say. Uh, Therefore, till the new process evolves with the new Merchant Shipping Act, Coast Guard still remains the functionary organization as far as oil spill response is concerned. The mandate continues, and therefore, I would request uh, the next speaker to come up and give his perspective of what the Coast Guard has been doing and what they intend to do in future. Please.
Chief Guest Mr. Rajiv Jalota, IAS, Captain Harinder Singh from Director General Shipping, my senior and mentor DIG SK Varghese, Officer in Charge, Pollution Response Team, Mumbai, organizers Samudra Manthan, Captain Bhandarkar, Captain LK Panda, former nautical advisor. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's a proud privilege and singular honor to stand amidst this esteemed gathering and provide an insight of the very apt and relevant topic in today's era, regulatory frameworks and compliance. In the next 15 minutes or so, I'll be bringing out the insights with respect to the legal frameworks, operational mechanism, and challenges being dealt upon by the combined and coordinated efforts of the various stakeholders during contingencies related to oil spill recovery and salvage operations. I'll be navigating my presentation through the waypoints as flashed. The year gone by has witnessed various events involving maritime incidents, including few of them leading to arrangements for oil spill recovery and subsequent salvage operations. However, due time constraints, I shall be limiting my deliberation with respect to the case study of MSC ELSA 3 only. The incidents involved underline the increasing traffic density, closer coast, and growing need for the preparedness in both oil spill recovery and the salvage operations. The Indian Ocean region is one of the busiest maritime zones in the world, handling about 50% of the world's seaborne trade and one-fifth of global energy supplies. IOR also hosts 40% of offshore oil production and 65% of oil and 35% of the gas reserves. The region also exhibits asymmetry of interest and power, making it vulnerable to pollution incidents and accidents involving large vessels. Let's now look at the global framework guiding our actions. The backbone of international maritime law lies in the conventions such as United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which establish rules governing all users of the oceans and their resources. Safety of life at sea, specifying the minimum standards for the construction, equipment, and operation of ships compatible with their safety. The Convention for the Prevention of maritime pollution to prevent pollution of the maritime environment by ships from operational as well as accidental cause. Oil Pollution Preparedness Response and Cooperation Convention, which entered into force in 1990, is a global framework for international cooperation in combating major incidents or threats of marine pollution. Parties are encouraged to establish measures to deal with the pollution incidents either nationally or in cooperation with the other countries. Measures include oil pollution emergency plans, reporting procedures and actions in cooperation with the oil and shipping industries, port authorities, and other relevant entities to establish response equipment, exercises, training, and communication, etc. UNEP's Regional Seas Program, launched in 1974, aims to address the accelerating degradation of the world's ocean and coastal areas. It bridges the regional forums to tackle marine environmental issues, including pollution preparedness and capacity building. Participated by 143 countries, total of 13 regional seas programs has been created for environmental management to be coordinated and implemented by countries sharing a common body of water. Also, 5 partner programs cover the Antarctic, Arctic, Baltic Sea, Caspian Sea, and Northeast Atlantic. Coming towards the regional agreements, a large number of regional government-to-government agreements, including both bilateral as well as multilateral, assist in both preparedness and response to the oil spill incidents within the respective areas. Further, such arrangements provide a forum for states to exchange concepts, research, and information. One such example is the Bonn Agreement, which provides a multilateral agreement to countries bordering the North Sea and Western approaches. Established in 1969, the Bonn Agreement has witnessed a total of 3 amendments so as to maintain the agreement in date. Global initiative programs jointly launched by the IMO and the oil industry in 1996 has witnessed industry-funded Tier 3 oil spill centers and participation from ITOF. Global initiative activities are currently focused on Caspian, Black Sea and Central Eurasia, West and Central Africa, Southeast Asia and China. Together, the international regulatory frameworks define the obligation of flag states, coastal states, and port states, ensuring that pollution prevention, preparedness, and cooperation are built into every phase of the maritime operation. On the national front, India has strong regulatory foundation. The Merchant Shipping Act, the National Oil Spill Disaster Contingency Plan or the NOS DCP. These frameworks empower the Indian Coast Guard as the central coordinating authority, as has already been deliberated by Captain Panda sir, towards oil spill response in Indian waters. The Coast Guard Act 1978 passed by the Indian Parliament. National Emergency Response Center for combating oil and chemical pollution at sea. The Union Cabinet in March 2018 approved signing of MOU between India and South Asia Cooperative Environment Program for cooperation on response to oil and chemical pollution in South Asian seas. The Indian Coast Guard was nominated as the competent national authority and national contact point for implementation of regional oil spill contingency plans under the said MOU. BIMSTEC main purpose is to foster economic development and regional integration among member states by promoting cooperation in areas like trade, technology, transport, security. It serves as a bridging gap between South and Southeast Asia, aiming to create a more prosperous and stable region through joint ventures in areas such as poverty alleviation, connectivity, and disaster management. The National Pollution Response Organization is as Flash and is given in NOS DCP also, with National Crisis Management Committee spearheaded by the Cabinet Secretary. The response system is multi-agency nature, including Indian Coast Guard, Indian Navy, Indian Air Force, the Director General of Shipping, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, port authorities, various pollution control boards, ONGC, several scientific institutions including INCOIS and NIO. Effective coordination amongst these stakeholders is critical during the large-scale incidents. Oil spill response process begins with surveillance and detection, followed by the containment using booms and skimmers, the use of dispersants under approved guidelines, and finally shoreline cleanup and restoration. The OSD latest guidelines 2025 has been promulgated and is available to all the stakeholders. Each phase requires precision, timing, and environmental sensitivity. In parallel, salvage operations aim to stabilize the vessel, mitigate secondary risks, which includes emergency towing, lighterage of fuel, and hazardous cargo, stability assessment, and structural integrity checks. Such operations prevent a spill from escalating into a full-blown environmental crisis. Compliance plays a major role. Mandatory incident reporting, joint inspections at various levels, environmental impact assessments, and regular drill ensure operational readiness. Additionally, ports and coastal installations maintain facility contingency plan for Tier 1 responses, while as coastal states maintain local contingency plans for shoreline cleanup. Now let's examine the incident of MSC Elsa 3. 1997 built Liberia flag container, while as en route from Villingam to Kochi, reported distress to Maritime Rescue Coordination Center, Mumbai on 24th May this year. The vessel had a crew strength of 24 and significant fuel, including 84.44 metric tons of diesel, 367.1 metric ton of finance oil, and 55 metric tons of lubricant oil. As first responder, immediate action was taken by Indian Coast Guard. At about 1930 hours on 23rd May 25, MSC Elsa 3 had departed the port of Villingam towards Kochi with ETA the very next day, that is 24th May 25. However, while en route at about 1315 hours on 24th May, MSC Elsa 3 reported distress to Maritime Rescue Coordination Center, Mumbai. On receipt of the distress alert, the MRCC Mumbai immediately diverted Indian Coast Guard fast patrol vessel, raised international safety net for transiting ships to render assistance, and also mobilized Indian Coast Guard aircraft for the rescue of the crew and situational assessment. The rescue operations commenced on the evening itself, including ICG patrol vessels and motor vessels diverted by MRCC Mumbai. Additionally, Indian Coast Guard offshore patrol vessels were also diverted. The aerial assessment was critical for situational awareness and response planning. Overnight of 24th and 25th May witnessed the vessel drifting towards southeasterly. Subsequently, on the morning of 25th May, the vessel sank at position approximately 15 nautical miles off Alzapuza, Kerala. Along with the safety of navigation, the sinking led to the risk of fuel leakage and drifting containers. Post-sinking, oil sheen was reported in the vicinity. An Indian Coast Guard aircraft in pollution response configuration was launched. A pollution warning signal was raised and pollution response actions initiated by Indian Coast Guard ships and aircrafts. Subsequently, the navigation area warning was also issued for the safety of navigation for the transiting ships in the area. Additional Indian Coast Guard assets were mobilized for immediate actions with respect to pollution response. Subsequently, on 26 May, during aerial spill assessment, widespread oil sheen drifting southeast at 1.5 to 2 knots was identified. Two major oil spill patches were detected. Patch 1, 3.5 by 2.5 nautical miles, and patch 2, 3.0 by 0.8 nautical miles. Additionally, about 80 to 90 cargo containers were observed floating in the vicinity, posing further navigational hazard. Multiple spill patches were detected, and Indian Coast Guard ships and aircrafts conducted continuous monitoring and recovery operations. Assets from Cochin and other stations were mobilized within hours, showcasing rapid inter-agency coordination. The fact sheet of deployment with respect to ICG is as flashed on the screen. A total of 5 ships, including specialized pollution control vessel, were utilized for the said operation, and 12 aircraft sorties were undertaken, amounting to a total of 34 hours of flying operations for the 2.5-day operations. Surface oil recovery involved the use of absorbent booms, propeller wash dispersion, and sampling near LEP to monitor containment. ICGS Samarth and dedicated pollution control vessel ICGS Samudra Prahari maintained a constant presence to ensure the situation remained under control. Despite containment, oil shield and nodal contamination were observed along the coast. The impact extended to marine life, coastal ecosystem, and local fisheries, leading to temporary fishing bans and livelihood disruptions. Such incidents remind us that environmental and social economic dimensions are inseparable in maritime safety. The challenges faced were multifacets. Few of them are as listed. Traffic density closer to the coast has increased significantly. With more vessels hugging the coastline, especially during adverse sea conditions, the risk of collision, navigation difficulties, and emergency situations have grown manifold, thereby placing additional pressure on monitoring and the response systems. Secondly, we have witnessed a steady increase in the number of ports and ship breaking yards across IOR. While as this expansion supports the maritime trade, it also leads to a rise in the maritime incidents, pollution risks, and the overall complexity of the coastal management. Another major challenge is the rapid increase in the size of cargo ships. Today, over 50% of commercial vessels are large, high capacity ships, making firefighting, damage control, salvage operations, and rescue efforts far more demanding. Incidents such as fires, flooding, and vessel grounding have become more frequent, more severe, often requiring specialized equipment and trained response teams. We are also dealing with a proliferation of maritime contingencies, ranging from mechanical failures and hazardous cargo spills to security related incidents. Each of these demands swift decision making and coordinated actions at various nodes with different stakeholders. Adding to this, conducting rapid response operations in difficult sea conditions remains a significant operation challenge, as has been already briefed upon. High waves, strong winds, and constrained visibility may delay or complicate the emergencies further. Another key is the complexity of stakeholder coordination. Multiple agencies, including port authorities, environmental bodies, shipping companies, international partners, need to work together seamlessly during such emergencies, which is not always easy. Lastly, we have to consider the environmental and socio-economic sensitivities associated with the maritime incidents. Oil spills, hazardous leaks, and vessel wrecks can severely affect marine ecosystem, coastal communities, and livelihood, making timely and effective response absolutely critical. These challenges collectively highlight the need for stronger preparedness, advanced capability development, and continuous interagency cooperation. In conclusion, India remains firmly committed to maritime environmental safety. Our frameworks and response capabilities are strong and under constant refinement. Through technology, training, and cooperation, we can ensure cleaner seas, contributing to both Swachh Bharat Abhiyan and Swachh Sagar Abhiyan. Together, let us strive for a pollution-free maritime future. Thank you. Vyayam Raksham. I have a last 10 seconds of video for the audience, please.
Our mission spans security, rescue, and preserving marine ecosystems. We are the guardians of the sea. We are Yatra Tatra Sarvatra.
Thank you so much. Vyayam Raksham. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, DIG Vanu Gupta. Lovely presentation, if I may say. And we have also the representative from the NDMA. She has just arrived and would like to take your queries instead of making a presentation. All of us know it because as per our NOS DCP of 2015 as amended, the whole pollution aspect has been divided into 3 tiers. The tier 1 is for the port and the states, the ports rather. The tier 2 is for the within 3 miles, that is coming under the state's purview, and the last is for beyond that, where the Coast Guard takes over. The National Disaster Maritime Authority is also, they have delegated the power to the states, and every state has a SDMA, which is controlled under the DMA. We will discuss these issues, and therefore I leave it to the audience to hold their question on this issue. Therefore, I would request the presenters to come on the dais again, so that in case any query is there, it will be our pleasure to answer the queries. First, Captain Harinder Singh, please. The DIG Bhanugupta, please. And Madam Sadhu, please. Yeah, please sit. Do you have a mic? Do you have a mic to pass around? Within the given time frame, I think my colleagues have been able to give their best or give whatever they could present in that little time. However, I'm quite sure there will be quite a few questions in your mind which you would like to have the answer. You're free to question, and you are free to ask or give suggestion even. I leave this to the floor now, please. Just give your name and to whom this question is directed to, so that it will help us in answering the queries.
Good evening all. My name is Amita Kamath. I'm from Kerala, basically Calicut. The coastline where we are talking about right now about the pollution. As we know, we are talking about salvage operations, we are talking about oil spill, but nobody is talking about the fishermen who are been suffering from last 7 to 8 months. Who we still now in Kerala, we find it difficult to consume fish because of this issue. So who is going to compensate these fishermen? Is it the insurance company or the owners or the government of India or the state government? Who is going to compensate? Thank you very much.
You would like to answer?
Good evening once again. Thank you, ma'am. That was a very valid question, which we realized we missed out in our presentation. But when we said that we have also come out with coastal advisory for the states, so that advisory will also have the provision for establishing a claims desk. How those claims desks have to be established? What is the procedure for the claims? So the claims from fishermen, the local community, is part of that advisory. So that is not forgotten. It is just that it was not given in the presentation, but that has been adequately factored in our plan, in our SOP, as well as our coastal state advisory. So we have that. Thank you.
Yeah, please.
Can I just elaborate answer? I think I'm loud enough to say. Yeah, answer is the claim actually comes from a ship. Okay? The first stage is the P&I club. The club covers it. What goes over the CLC limits will be covered under the IOPC funds. Basically, loss of environment. I think in the next presentation, you will hear somebody from the fund who is going to speak about how these claims are this thing. There is a very large methodology of covering this.
Thank you, Captain Mahapatra. Thank you. Any other query?
I'm Advocate Sandhya Pillai, Managing Partner of VMT Legal. So I would just like to continue on what Amita said and Captain Mahapatra said. So she was basically talking about accountability, okay, which the administration is trying in its manner to address. However, what Captain Mahapatra said about the funds, now the companies get away with limiting their liability, limitation of liability. I believe there are certain international conventions of which India is not a party. I'm not, exactly aware of why or what. But however, how will the administration address this issue? Because in the case of ELSA 3, which is of course sub judice as of now, there's a huge ecological impact as well as the fishermen's livelihoods. which unfortunately the state has claimed an X amount and the company has limited their liability to a fraction of that amount that has been claimed. So in order to address these issues in future, how will the administration address that? That's my question. Thank you.
What happens is the ships, they limit their liability under the LLMC, right? And the fishermen, their liability, they will be processing it through the state SDMA, right? And the SDMA in turn will be processing with the PRI club of the ship. Uh, uh, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think there has been any case which has come up where the claims have been beyond the sales limit as yet. I am aware of the claims made by the Kerala in the very recent Elsa 3 incident, which apparently has gone beyond the LLMC. The matter is under sub judice, therefore, at this stage, it will not be proper to discuss the subject. Thank you. Any other question, please?
Good evening. My question is to DIG Bhanu Gupta and also probably to Harinder Singh. Sir, we are talking about this oil spill recovery program today, and you know, what would it take for India? What would it take for India to become a global leader in this particular field? You know, the India Maritime Week just passed by, and there were a lot of MOUs that were signed in various fields, and the world is looking towards our country as a global maritime hub. So, if that is the case, then why shouldn't we be looked at also a global force in oil spill recovery?
Thank you so much. Very nice and apt question. As you know, the technology is moving ahead, so are we chasing the same. As I have mentioned in my presentation also, and I got a couple of documents for you to have a look. The Indian Coast Guard has come up with the OSD guidelines of 2025. So this document is available, easily accessible by all, which clearly enunciate what all is required by the port authorities, oil handling agencies, what all equipment, and moreover, the list of the OSD is also available. The latest circular, when I speak so, the latest circular issued by circular number 05 of 2025, dated 4th November. When we speak today is hardly a fortnight back. Competent National Authority Secretariat for Oil and Chemical Spill Response has issued a latest circular which lists the details of OSD for use in Indian waters and is again available online. So this is how we are keeping a pace with the technology and updating ourselves. And as has been mentioned earlier by Captain uh, Harinder Singh during his presentation, the set of Merchant Shipping Act has already been processed, and merchant and governing from that, we will be coming up with the rules wherein there is a body which has already been formed at my headquarters, CGHQ, which is at New Delhi, which will be deliberating further. That was all with respect to your query. And Madam, just to add on, as you mentioned earlier, with respect to the conventions. This is a very tedious and basic query I face in many of the forums. So I got the written document from the IMO which states, I'll just repeat for the benefit of entire audience. Conventions are established when number of countries which are members of the IMO feel the need for a convention. These conventions are recorded in the form of a final act of conference and include regulations that provide technical provisions. There is something called as protocol and amendments. Amendments are added to keep an agency and organization apt and up to the date. Protocols are major amendments in the regulations of a convention which are called among the countries that are signatory to the original convention. Sorry for taking long. I thought I should explain this very basic pivotal question. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. In case you have any query on these issues, it is still at a formative stage, as you may be knowing that the Merchant Shipping Act has just been amended in October, and probably the NOS DCP, which was made in 2015 and duly amended, probably that one will be also amended with the new Merchant Shipping Act so that the sink well. The whole objective is that we should see that Indian Ocean and the Bay of Bengal is as clean as possible. Of course, you cannot say, because you cannot say that you reach to a 15 ppm level, because every day the oil transport is increasing. The HNS convention has also put in load, and it's no joke to comply with the total requirement and keep the Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea free from any pollution. It's a dream, but however, there is no harm in dreaming and moving towards it. With that, I thank my colleagues for giving excellent presentation, and thank you, ma'am, from the NDMA. She was ready to answer in case you have any query. Still, we will request that you can send your queries to the Bhandarkar publications through your mail or any other mean, and we'll try to answer to the best of our ability. Thank you for participating, and thank you, Bhandarkar, thank you, Sagar Manthan Foundation and DG Shipping for giving us this opportunity to present our viewpoint. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. We've got a wonderful perspective from the DG Shipping through Captain Harinder Singh, and from the Coast Guard by DIG Bhanu Gupta. So may I please request you to stay back on stage for presenting of the mementos. May I request Ms. Kajal Festin Purohit to please join us on stage for presenting the mementos. Captain Panda. Captain Harinder. Yes. May I request Kajal to please stay back on stage for a photograph. So the mementos are very special. They are a telegraph device with a working lever. Captain Panda, may I request you to please stay back on stage? So may I call upon Captain Abul Kalam Azab to please come up on stage for receiving his mementos. Thank you. Our second session is Global Regulatory Alignment, IMO, IOPC, ITOPF, OPRC compliance in Indian waters.
And our panelists are, our moderator is Captain Ashok Mahapatra, former director IMO. And we have on the panel Advocate Aditya Krishnamurthy, partner with Bosan Mitra, and Dr. Annabelle Nicholas Kopek, who's going to be joining us virtually. May I request all the panelists to please join me on stage? Our moderator is Captain Ashok Mahapatra. He started his career with this India Steamship Navigation Company, and in 1986 he joined as the nautical surveyor with the Government of India. In 1994, he was promoted as the Deputy Nautical Advisor to the Government of India. He joined the STCW and Human Elements section of the IMO as a technical officer in 1998. In January 2012, he was appointed as the Senior Deputy Director, Subdivision for Operations, Safety and Human Element at the IMO. In 2015, he took over as the Director, Maritime Safety Division of the IMO. He's the only Indian to have this position. He is retired from the IMO in December 2017 and has his own consultancy now. On our panel is Advocate Aditya Krishnamurthy. He's a partner with Bosan Mitra, which is a renowned shipping maritime firm, law firm in India. He holds an LLM in maritime law from the University of Southampton. He has been practicing for over 18 years, and he has been involved in a number of shipping casualty cases, oil spill cases, including claims against the Fund Convention. And he's also worked on matters under the Civil Liability Convention. Our panelist who's appearing virtually is Dr. Annabelle Nicholas Kopek. She's the Senior Technical Advisor at the ITOPF and has over 14 years of experience in oil and chemicals, in the oil and chemical spill industry. She leads working groups on HNS, plastics, and ESG, and she's heavily involved in preparedness activities focusing on alternative fuels. Over to you, sir.
At the onset, let me thank Sagar Manthan Foundation for inviting us here. It's indeed an honor to be here, and all the dignitaries, including the chief guest, Mr. Jalota. We are going to talk about the international regulatory conventions. Before I introduce the panel, let me give you a brief introduction. Internationally, because shipping crosses various legal jurisdictions, it is necessary to have certain common understanding on the regulations that need to be followed by everybody, so that shipping moves efficiently and smoothly across various jurisdictions. Now, internationally, over the International Maritime Organization and other bodies, these are deliberated upon, and so far, I'm very proud to say, after being with the organization for more than 20 years, that we always came to a consensus. Consensus is very important in any global regulatory framework if we want to implement it. So that is how we come to it. Now, one of the aspects of any global regulation, for it to be effective within a national waters, it is absolutely necessary to have this within your national legislation system. Why I say this, one of the examples, not being critical, we ratified the Marpol Convention, and for 15 years it was not within our national regulations. Fortunately, we did not have any incident during that period. But if we had with that, and if it was a foreign flagship with good legal luminaries, they would have got away scot-free, because the court would have said, it is not in your national legislation, we can't give a judgment on that. The courts can only give a judgment when it is within the national. Having said that, now I come, yes, we have done this. Our entire legal system until recently was based on the language and the legal system that was envisaged and implemented by Lord Macaulay. Am I correct, sir? And the language is so archaic that it was a colonizer's language, and we were debating with it. And one of the things that is required is that language must be simple, understandable, so that the person who is going to comply with it understands it without having to engage a lawyer to understand it. Unfortunately, means things are changing slowly, but I would have liked it to move. So the thing is not with the ministries. The impediment is with the Ministry of Law, which is still stuck with that archaic language. I'm sorry to say it, sir, but that is the truth. So much so that you have certain, I don't know if it is there in the, you have a certain section, you have drafted a law. At the footnote, there is a note. If we who have drafted it are not clear that we need a note, can you imagine what is the situation for the person who is going to comply with it? So my sincere request to those who are drafting it, please draft it in a language that people will understand. Now, I am not going to take too much of time. We have got, I think, Annabella will first make her presentation. Annabella, welcome. Greetings. This thing we may not have met. Means I have left IMO about 8 years ago, so otherwise I would have probably met you. But welcome. Please give your presentation as this thing.
Thank you very much. And I will be asking if you can see clearly this presentation. Yeah, can you hear me and see my presentation well?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm a senior technical advisor at ITOF, and first I would like to apologize for not being able to be here in person, but I'm very glad to have the opportunity to be part of this discussion on India's role, particularly on spill recovery. So I'm going to talk today about some of the challenges ITOF has experienced firsthand from working globally and in the region on the preparation and effective response, either nationally or internationally. So our core role at ITOF is to promote an effective spill response by supporting various stakeholders with technical advice. And ITOF has been supporting authorities in more than 100 countries for almost 60 years. And we tend to be involved with on-site attendance, and you can see the red dots here. We tend to attend to 20 to 30 incidents per year, roughly. However, as it was mentioned earlier, due to the heavy shipping lane in Asia-Pacific region, this area accounts for more than 50% of all our incidents we attended. So our role is not limited to response to traditional mineral oil spills from cargo or bunker fuel spill, but also chemicals, also called HNS, hazardous noxious substances, either from chemical tankers or container ships, but also other substances carried by ships, such as plastic pellets. So as such, I will not only focus on oil, but I will include all pollutants in my presentation. If you look here at height of support in India over the years, you can see on the map that we have provided technical advice on more than 23 spills, 14 attended on site in red and 9 remote for a range of substances. I put some example here. Some of you may recall the Dongachipuram in 2017, chemicals, Q-bridge, or other substances, including HNS or containers such as the MSC ELISA. Actually, my colleague is currently on site at the moment providing continuous support on plastic pellet cleanup, a challenge that we are going to go back to. And I'm sure some of you have been involved or are still involved in some of these incidents. Now, if we look in the wider region, we can see how many incidents over the years have occurred in the region and how India is ideally positioned to provide technical assistance to its neighboring country. Now, let's address the key challenges that can undermine even the best prepared spill response systems. These challenges apply across different pollutant types, whether we're dealing with oil or chemical or alternative fuel. All of these challenges are interconnected. Addressing them requires a multi-layered approach, like strong legal framework, international cooperation through convention, updated national plan, and regular exercise, and sustained regional collaboration. Not a single solution addresses all of those challenges. And the first challenge I want to talk about is the cooperation and communication. The response capability works on 3 interconnected levels. Recent incidents across the regions really tell an important story. Not all countries have the same level of preparedness, expertise, or technical capacity. International cooperation is not an option, it's essential. India's track record demonstrates this commitment in practice. There has been regional support through Express Pearl, for example, incident, assisting with the firefighting operation, also the deployment of expertise to the Wakashio oil spill in Mauritius. And this commitment is actually demonstrated by India's ratification to several protocols and agreements. As you can see on the map, for the OPRC 90, one of the IMO International Convention, India and many of its neighboring countries are party of the OPRC 90. However, the picture is not fully complete. As you can see here, for the OPRC HNS 2000, India has not ratified this convention yet. This is partly compensated by the multiple regional agreements currently in place. And here I have highlighted few of the agreements that are in the region and among which India is a party of. But within each country, multiple governmental agencies must work together. Environment Authority, Coast Guard, Port, Custom or Police, they all play a crucial role with strong interagency coordination, response effort, fragment, and will delay operation, leading to increased damage. For both intergovernmental and stakeholder cooperation, they are often inadequately tested in exercises, and miscommunication is often discovered during live incidents. Early stakeholder involvement and established communication protocol make the difference. If you think about practical barriers, customs delay, holding up essential equipment, or waste disposal protocol that don't match the emergency timeline. These issues can cripple an otherwise well-planned response. And when stakeholders are engaged from the start, this problem can be identified and the opportunity to be solved before they really matter. This leads quite naturally to the importance of timely decision-making, the second challenge, and how a long delay can have detrimental effect on the population, the livelihood, and the environment. To give you an example, I wanted to speak about the plastic pellets issue. ITOF has been involved in 6 major plastic pellets spill over the last 5 years. Unfortunately, one you are familiar with along the Indian shore with the MSC Elsa-3, and one with the Express Pearl in Sri Lanka. Plastic pellet spill are quite uniquely time-sensitive incident where delays in decision-making can have severe and long-lasting consequences. Plastic pellets are highly mobile, leading to rapidly evolving situations. They disperse quickly across wide area, meaning the contamination footprint expands significantly in matters of hours. Even after initial responses for plastic pellet can resurface years later through environmental recharge, washing up on beach and coastal area long after the incident is considered resolved. In addition, the availability of response tools remain quite rudimentary, often resulting in prolonged and intensive cleanup operation that strain resource and budget. The bottom line on the timing is that, therefore, effective response must be highly dynamic and adaptive. Decision maker must be able to rapidly scale up resource at incident onset to prevent protracted response operation, and then quickly redirect resources to emerging contamination hotspots as the situation evolves. For timely decision to translate into actions, intergovernmental agencies really must work together rapidly and remove the bureaucratic barriers. Flexible, pollutant-adapted response requires administrative systems that support quick decision implementation rather than hindering it. And delay can cause procedural bottlenecks, which will directly worsen environmental outcome and increase response cost. In terms of compensation, while there is no specific liability and compensation arrangement, the wreck removal convention provides an international framework for wreck removal and may be applicable to incidents involving loss of containers of plastic pellets. Under the convention, the hazard that may reasonably be expected to result in major harm to the environment might be, in theory, within the definition of the convention. And India has ratified this convention. Almost each country, however, has its own system to circumvent the bureaucratic pitfall. Many of you are very familiar with this example of the UK, but the UK have created this SOSREP role, the Secretary of State Representative for Maritime Salvage and Intervention, where it's basically one single person that is acting on behalf of the government ministers, exercising command and control. It has operational independence in the decision-making process on behalf of the government and in all the decision-making process. And in the SOSREP own world, the early intervention options resting with the single individual ensure timely response. And that fits to the last point I wanted to highlight, which is expertise and experience sharing. Understanding why knowledge sharing matters requires to understand the fundamental difference between oil and HNS response. Oil is behavior driven. We apply established technique based on how oil behave. HNS is hazard driven, and each chemical, included alternative fuel, requires specific expertise based on its unique properties and hazard. And with 43% of vessels in the order book in 2023 running on alternative fuel or dual fuel system, this expertise gap is growing rapidly. Unlike oil spill response, where techniques are well established and well disseminated, for HNS response, it remains quite specialized and not widely known. And not a single country has encountered or will encounter all the scenarios. So sharing experience will help everyone to prepare better. All incidents can be managed by trained local workforce, but HNS demands a highly skilled responder with chemical-specific knowledge. And building this capacity region-wide requires collaborative training and knowledge transfer. To go back to the international framework, established international liability convention exists for oil, but for HNS and alternative fuel, we currently lack comparable framework. I mean, there is development on the way, but when you know that a single container ship can contain more than 400 different substances, you can see like sharing understanding of the response protocol and expertise become quite crucial. So given this complexity, no nation can develop an HNS response capability in isolation. Expertise and experience sharing throughout regional workshops, joint exercises, and collaborative planning are fundamental requirements for an effective preparedness. So how to implement an effective oil and chemical spill preparedness and response? Well, it's a framework that is quite central to the OPRC and OPRC HNS protocol. First, you need to bring everyone together who has a role: government agency, Coast Guard, Port Authority, and industry. Not a single agency can really handle a major spill alone. And then you need to identify where spills are more likely to happen, what type of oil, chemical are being transported, and which coastline area are most vulnerable. This tells where the focus of the resource needs to be brought. Then you end up with, based on that risk assessment, you can develop detailed response procedure. Who does what? Communication protocol, equipment location, and protection strategy for a sensitive area. As you know, the plans only work if they are tested, and regular drills and tabletop exercise can reveal gaps and build coordination between the agency. And when a real incident happens, then you can activate your tested procedures and mobilize the resource quickly. There is two critical elements, though, that support this entire cycle. The first one at the top is a multi-agency collaboration, because response requires collaboration across organizations. And then on the legislative point of view, they need to ensure that the laws support this action and align with international standards. So across the region, we are witnessing some really positive development, as a number of countries are updating their national oil spill contingency plan and incorporating HNS response capabilities. And India is a prime example of this. The challenge is that most port and national authorities simply haven't dealt with many real incidents, which means that typically they have limited hands-on experience and consequently limited technical expertise in specialized areas. India stands out for its proactive commitment in recent years, demonstrating by participation in numerous HNS-focused training programs, active involvement in the South Asian Regional Oil and Chemical Preparedness Plan, and leadership in regional response exercises. Now, and I think that will go back to some of the questions that was addressed to the panel earlier. Here is the composition. If we look at the composition regime that can support claimant from spill, then you can see that except for alternative fuel, every scenario is covered by an international legislation. So for example, a spill from a cargo for a persistent oil from a tanker would be covered by the CLC and the FON Convention, which India has ratified. However, for other compensation regime, India is not a party of the Bunker Convention or the HNS Convention, and therefore, in that case, the national law will apply for such spill, such as bunker fuel, oil spill from a non-tanker, for example, so a container ship. If you look at the neighboring country, you can see that the CLC protocol and the FON protocol are well ratified in the region and across the globe, really. However, for the Bunker Convention, you can see that it's a bit more patchy, and that could be a weakness that needs to be identified. As for the HNS Convention, at the moment, there is not enough country to trigger the protocol to enter in force, but that should be very soon, actually. And at the moment, no country from the Southeast Asia has contracting or signatory of the HNS Convention, which then again, that will fall back then for composition into the national law. So to finish this talk, the critical question to be addressed is, are India and the Asian sub-region ready for major maritime emergencies? Well, certainly the country is surely putting a lot of work into it. And the readiness requires seamless coordination between multiple governmental agencies during high pressure situations. It also means that if India wants to sustain its leadership role as a primary emergency responder provider across the wider Indian Ocean, that coordination needs to happen at an international level. It's not just about national capability, it's about the regional responsibility. So how do you bridge the gap? Well, it's a coordinating approach on multiple fronts. The first one would be the strengthening the legal framework to enable rapid and coordinated response without any bureaucratic delays. The second is the ratification of international convention which signal commitment and open door for better international convention. The third one would be the continuously updating the national contingency plan. India is already doing this, incorporating HNS alongside oil spill response. But this is an ongoing process and not just a one-time exercise. The fourth is deepening the regional cooperation through government partnership and industry collaboration. No country can handle major incident alone, and functional regional agreement and resource sharing mechanisms needs to be put in place. So finally, India has shown strong commitments through training program, regional exercise, and leadership initiative. The groundwork is there, and it's about building on that foundation systematically. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Annabella, for such a detailed presentation. One of the key things that I took from this thing is, one is no country has got everything to deal with all kinds of disaster. There needs to be cooperation, particularly in the region. Second is the timely action to be taken. And also you brought out a very good example of the UK SOSREP, this thing. I'm not saying that SOSREP is an answer to everything, but a SOSREP kind of authority would be required so that he or she can take decisions across the bureaucratic board to take so that timely action is taken. Madam, this is something you need to take back to your department to bring it, to have somebody who can cut across. You see, it is a fact that every ministry tries to protect its own turf. And that is natural. But somebody has to be there who can cut across that. And if we don't do that, we will miss out and we will be suffering. Now, also Annabella brought out, unfortunately, Isabel, friend from the fund is not here for her personal reasons, but she did bring out the various stages where the compensations can be taken. And definitely one of the key things of getting the compensation from the fund after the limitation of liability, civil liability convention goes, and you still have the CLC protocol and the fund, where it is very essential that we keep the requirements that they require to process your claims. I have never seen the fund, because they were operating in the same office as where I was working, that they have said we won't process it. It's just that the claim as how it should be substantiated has not been established. We need to substantiate it. And also, when we are doing, I once again repeat that the international conventions need to be ratified sooner than later, so that we benefit from the cross-boundary jurisdictional limitations. Thank you, Annabella. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'll now get Captain Aditya Krishnamurthy. Sorry, I'm mistaking with your father. He is an advocate. He will give us a presentation on the regulatory requirements and from the legal perspective. Aditya, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. At the very outset, it's a very exciting time to be a maritime lawyer and also a student of law, given the fact that we now have the Merchant Shipping Act 2025, which is already enacted by Parliament, received a signature from the President. And it's just a matter of time where delegated legislations are going to be framed, and that would be the case. Now, this, for the first time in India, we have a codified law on salvage, because the Merchant Shipping Act effectively incorporates the Salvage Convention. Until now, there was no codified law as such on salvage. And it's what is even more interesting right now is that our legislature have incorporated India's specific provisions. For example, the Salvage Convention leaves it to the given state whether salvage of life would be entitled to a salvage reward or not. Under the 2025 Merchant Shipping Act, salvage of life or saving life is also, your person is also entitled to a salvage reward. It's also very interesting to note that there are provisions of arbitration, because I've been involved in salvage cases where matters go on for years and years and eventually it gets stuck. So this provision where the Office of the Director General plays a role is very, very welcome. My personal opinion is we also, whilst it's very important to have professional salvers, we also have to encourage first responders. Now, for laymen, there is a huge difference between a claim for salvage and a claim for pollution prevention. A claim for salvage is where, if one of the three principles of salvage is no cure, no pay. So if you succeed in salving the property, you are entitled to a reward. You're not entitled to merely a compensation, but a reward. And the reward is a percentage of the sold value of the vessel and the sold value of the cargo. And this is a fun, as far as pollution prevention goes, you are entitled to a fair market rate and normal compensation for any loss which you've suffered. And that is the fundamental distinction between a claim for salvage and a claim for pollution prevention. Article 14 of the Salvage Convention says that even if you do not succeed in salving the property, but you take steps to prevent or minimize damage to the environment, you are entitled to a fair rate of compensation. So all your out-of-pocket expenses would be covered, as well as all your losses will be covered, and the current market rate. You may not be entitled to a reward in the strict sense, but you'll definitely be entitled to fair rate of compensation, and that is one thing which I think all everybody should keep in mind with the present regime. And I think we should also actively encourage first responders, because most often than not, even if you have professional salvers, it would take perhaps a day or two for them to mobilize resources. Your first responders also have to be rewarded. And it's nice, I've been involved in cases where a first responder is a port authority, and thereafter a professional salver comes. There's a lot of confusion as to who is entitled to what amount of compensation, who's entitled to a reward. So I think these issues get evened out with the new legislation. Now, coming to the topic of today, which I want to speak on, it's more related to preventive measures, preventive international IMO instruments like the MARPOL, like the SOLAS. And what is it's very interesting to note that all these legislations have been given effect in the 2025 Merchant Shipping Act. Your dumping convention, your ballast water convention, your STCW conventions. We are in a situation, and I think Captain Mahapatra can correct me, that as far as most international conventions goes, it's after a major catastrophe takes place that a new convention comes into place. For example, after the Titanic vessel sinking, that gave birth to the SOLAS, because one of the it was after the Titanic unfortunate incident where they realized that there was insufficient lifeboats. So you had SOLAS, which dealt with making it obligatory for ship owners to have life-saving appliances. You had Exxon Valdez oil spill, which gave rise to changes in MARPOL. It gave rise to the US enacting the Oil Pollution Act, which a number of legislations have replicated. You have the Herald of Free Enterprise, where an inquiry found that the entire ship owning company was totally lax, and as a result of it there was bad communication. That gave rise to an amendment to the SOLAS, which brought in the ISM code, which made mandated a designated person having access to the top level of management of a company. You had the Costa Concordia incident, where you have changes again to SOLAS, changes again to evacuation. You had the Estonia incident, where after that incident, the SOLAS was amended to have the voids data recorder. You had the Prestige case, where there was a problem, and it was after that that people realized that you have to have a port of safe refuge, because when the Prestige incident took place, France said, "Get out of my territory." Then you had Portugal. Spain said nobody was willing to take a vessel. So it changed your ERICA scale. So all in, at least as far as maritime safety conventions goes, maritime environmental conventions goes, most of these conventions come into force after a unfortunate incident. But having said that, if you look at the ISPS code, that is a prevent that is taken place even without an incident, because after the September 11th incident, everybody feared that a similar incident would take place on board the sea, and people had the foresight to see that what would happen in September 11 would also happen at sea, and then you had the ISPS code. So I think the future moves right now to anticipating a casualty, and taking and trying to create a legal regime to deal with that. Now, most conventions presently in the IMO has what is known as a tacit acceptance procedure, whereby, given the fact that the shipping industry is a very, very dynamic industry with rapid technological changes, any amendment, if because most often than not, conventions say amendments will require, say, 2/3 of the state parties to agree to it. That takes a very, very long time, and as a result of which, it is found that the law keeps lagging behind what it normally ought to be. So the IMO introduced a tacit acceptance procedure where unless 1/3 of the states objects, you are deemed to have accepted the new amendments to the convention. And with that, over the past decade, you had seen radical changes to MARPOL and SOLAS, which has come into place. And this has helped immensely in making law more dynamic. The second point is even our Merchant Shipping Act, both the 1958 Merchant Shipping Act as well as the 2025 Merchant Shipping Act refers to an international convention as amended from time to time. So now we are in a very interesting situation where our legislations are not amended by our own parliament. Our legislations are not amended by the government of India, but by a committee sitting in the IMO by way of this tacit acceptance scheme. Now, there has also been a lot of criticism as far as tacit acceptance schemes goes, saying that this in some ways gives rise to a democratic deficit where the people do not make the law. It's just a committee in the IMO which thereafter mere silence tantamounts to acquiescence to the convention. You can also as far as the tacit acceptance schemes go, you can opt out of a certain convention, so that does not create uniformity. There are also issues in relation to enforcement, because many times conventions are in some ways rammed in much faster than most coastal states are prepared for. To give you a few examples, you look at the Marpol Convention, you have which has a number of annexes, as each dealing with one particular aspect. One of particular interest to me recently is the Annex 6, which now deals with air pollution. Now, India has there's been a lot of criticism even in India that most of these changes to Marpol are motivated by, say, European interests, which will, like for example, the SOx regulation. Right now, you have a regulation proposed by the committee, the Maritime Environmental Committee, and that basically talks about new legislations like the carbon intensity indicator, where some Indian ship owners feel that these things are European ideas being rammed over to India. So I think there's not much discussion which is happening, and I think if India is opposed to that, we should strongly object to it in the IMO. What is also interesting in MAPOL is the way the US goes about in MAPOL. For example, if a master of a vessel discharges a bilge water by using what is known as a magic hose to get out of the oil water separator anywhere in the world, but when they come to the US and they falsify entries, the master can be arrested, and so the chief engineer can be arrested. And the moot issue is, what has this got to do with the US? And their answer to that is that when you come to the US, your records should be clear, your records should be truthful, and that gives rise to a new form of prosecution. One can debate the pros and cons of that. We also recently have a number of changes with the SOLAS convention, most interestingly the IMDG code. Now recently, as the nautical advisor pointed out, you have a lot of these incidents which take place on container vessels, and for the past 1.5 years you've had and a lot is to be caused by misdeclaration of cargo, issues relating to weighment of cargo, and so those things are going to take place. I see a lot of changes happening there even in the future, keeping in mind also that recent war, if you look at the Ukraine-Russia conflict, you've seen the use of drones from containers. So you might have perhaps changes, apprehensions that you may have drones in containers or explosives in containers. So these things also might see a lot of changes. The next issue, which I personally believe, is no matter how good your legislations are, if your enforcement mechanisms are weak, you are not going to, your regulations are in some ways irrelevant. And this is also partly because the shipping industry is a very, very cyclical industry. many times to comply with these international regulations, it is quite onerous, and at times companies may be tempted to cut corners and adopt an easier way out. And this also creates, in some ways, unfair competition among various ship owners, because a party who plays by the rules of the game incurs costs on maintenance, education, training of seafarers, tends to be at a detriment as compared to somebody who's able to cut corners and offer a lesser freight rate. There's also a case of lack of adequate deterrence. If you look at our earlier Merchant Shipping Act, because of the inflation, your fines levied for contravention of provisions of the Merchant Shipping Act were pittance as compared to what it is right now. So the levels of deterrence also was not there. But I'm glad to say that the present Merchant Shipping Act has significantly greater deterrence. Uh, as you know, as far as most preventive safety regulations goes, the main party to enforce it would be the flag state. And a flag state is required to investigate a casualty, irrespective of where the casualty has occurred. Your and most of and so and many times, like in India, for example, most if a ship is flying the Indian flag, you ought to employ Indian crew members. So there is an element of deterrence also for the Indian crew members if they're going on an Indian flag vessel, even if an incident is taking place somewhere abroad, because they're answerable to the Indian Maritime Administration. Their certificate can be suspended. So issues like that also, that creates further deterrence. Uh, we also have to encourage a lot of debate whether open registries and flag of convenience in some ways encourage substandard shipping, because most often than not, many of these open registries delegate their roles to classification societies. The degree of enforcement of international regulations varies from one country to another, and sometimes open registries are perhaps a bit lax in order to attract a greater tonnage. And so that's another debate which goes on in industry. I'm not setting out any opinion, but I'm just trying to set out various viewpoints on this issue in the context of substandard shipping and in the context of enforcement of international regulations. Thereafter, the second tier of defense is always the port state control. The IMOs come out with certain directives how to carry out port state control. Port states can always detain vessels if they have reasons to suspect that they are substandard, and that acts as a huge deterrence. And also the fact that all port state detentions today are available to the public at large, because if you go to Equasis, you would know where all the been port state detentions of the vessels. So this also affects perhaps people know the maintenance of a vessel, and that perhaps acts as a deterrence. The third party who plays an active role would be the classification societies. They carry out functions which the flag state has to do. They have to issue certificates under SOLAS. They also have to undertake an audit under the ISPS code and under the ISM code. And an overwhelming majority of classification societies are part of the International Association of Classification Societies. So that again has certain common rules and regulations. But the issue is another point of debate is, should classification societies be liable for negligence? Because in today's day and age, a lot of people rely on certificates issued by classification societies. Now, the law traditionally has been, at least as a matter of English law, that classification societies cannot be held liable to unknown third parties. So if an unknown person just relies on the certificate, he is not liable. Though continental systems take a different view. Civil law countries, there have been cases where classification societies have been held liable. Recently, there was one of the largest claims was a claim against American Bureau of Shipping in relation to the Prestige incident, but that was dismissed by the US courts on the ground of conflict of law, but it didn't go into the underlying merits. But notwithstanding the fact, if it can be established that there is an element of willful falsification or grossly negligent, then they can even be potentially exposed to criminal liabilities. And in any event, maritime administrations can deregister classification societies. So I think in the near future, for example, in the European Union has issued a lot of directives as far as regulating classification societies goes, because they play a very important role. Another way to safeguard against substandard shipping is these vetting by oil majors, because I think there is no greater deterrent than losing out on a profitable charter. So if your and so oil majors also keep vetting, and and many charter parties have provisions that if they don't get an oil major approval, then that would be a breach of condition. It entitles a party to terminate. So that's another way to ensure that we have we eliminate substandard shipping, which is one of the ways to prevent maritime casualties. And finally, I would like to say that the best way is also the insurers coming into place, because the H&M breach of class is a breach of warranty, which entitles an H&M insurer to decline cover. Similarly, even P&I clubs often have their own vetting to ensure that you are constantly vetted to know that they're inspected properly. You have the hulls clause, which says that negligence of crew is one ground that the ITC hulls for making a claim, but that does not arise from a failure to exercise due diligence. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity.
Thank you, Aditya, for bringing it up. Few points on this. You mentioned tacit amendment. Let me tell you that this tacit amendment process was introduced by an Indian. Dr. C.P. Srivastava was the Secretary General, and IMO was the only UN body which had that provision until the ILO adopted it in the MLC. And these are the only two organizations. Having said that, also you did say that most conventions are issue which has come out of incidents, which is fine, barring one. That is the STCW convention, which is one of my babies. Anyway, having said that, the other thing is, yes, the tacit amendment procedure with reference to the MARPOL, particularly Annex 6, is controversial primarily because until recently, you were right, the environmentalists of Europe had taken it over. However, in the extraordinary session of the Maritime Environment Protection Committee, it faced a big setback. And this, the US has now questioned, along with a lot of players, including some of the large open registers. And incidentally, in the IMO, the open registers are the biggest paymasters. So it has its own connotations. Having said that, thank you very much. Do we have any questions we can take? Just a couple of questions before I think they're on the verge of the closed timing. Any questions? No questions? Okay, I think, thank you very much. We have got both Captain Panda and myself, we again have to be grilled tomorrow. So we seem to be glutton for punishment anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Mahapatra.
I'm sure everybody's enjoyed today's session. Great insights on how reactive the conventions are to incidents, and especially the international conventions, and how various stakeholders can, really act as deterrent to the incidents that are happening. We've now come to the end of the day one of the symposium, and thank you all for being so patient. May I request Captain Vivek Bhandarkar to please come up on stage? Then may I request Captain Neil Rodriguez to please come on stage for presenting the mementos. May I request Captain Mahapatra to please come up on stage for receiving the memento. May I request Mr. Aditya Krishnamurti to please come up on stage? Thank you. May I request Captain Bhandarkar to please receive Dr. Annabella's memento in absentia, please? I'll request Captain Bhandarkar now to please address us for the vote of thanks.
Yeah, I'm not going to take too much of your time. Just to say that the sessions that went off very well, we have stuck to our time nearly. It should have been 1836. Now I think it's a good time to finish. And we will hope to start off tomorrow. I will give you a roundup of all the things. But in the meantime, I would like to request if any questions that are there for the speakers. Are there any questions for the speakers? Well, Annabelle, are you there? She's logged out. Okay. All right. So next time. But I just wanted to raise a question to all of you. The flag that she showed of India was that Kashmir. Annabelle, are you there? Yeah, very good. Thank you. Hi. I just noticed, don't mind my observation, but it's important for me because the flag that you showed of India with parts of Kashmir was split off. Boundaries were not correct. So please correct it next time for us. And for anybody you present.
My apologies.
Pardon? Yeah.
I will do that. My apologies. It is
No
very
problem.
important.
Thank you very much. And your presentation was very nice. I was appreciating all that things happen at your end. And we hope to hear more of you in more details next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you then. If no other questions for Annabelle, please. Okay, so Annabelle, if you can be there tomorrow evening also, you'll be there, yeah?
Yes, tomorrow for the last session.
Right. Thank you very much. Okay then, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Annabelle.